All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a single, frankly breathtaking piece of concept art to unpack the massive narrative hidden entirely within its brushstrokes. We don't have a novel here, we don't have a script, we have pure, unadulterated visual data. And my goal today is to show you exactly how to read it. So, how exactly does one image tell the story of a thousand-year war? I love starting with a massive question like this, because understanding how epic world building happens without a single paragraph of text is just absolutely fascinating. When you look at an image like the one we're about to explore, your brain is instantly processing a vast history, a complex political divide, and an imminent threat, literally all in a fraction of a second. The artist pulls this off through deeply ingrained visual cues, color psychology, and geographical composition. We're going to deconstruct exactly how that magic trick works. Just take a second here. Absorb the overwhelming, epic scale of this entire piece before we systematically drill down into the hidden details. Let your eyes kind of wander across it. You're looking at two massive, highly organized civilizations literally on the brink of annihilation. There is this incredibly palpable tension. I mean, the sheer density of the armies, the dramatic lighting, the jagged terrain, it all screams that something monumental is about to happen. Keep this overarching feeling of suspense in the back of your mind, because every single micro detail we look at from here on out was deliberately chosen to support this exact feeling. Okay, moving into our first section, the conflict of dawn, deconstructing the title. Now, check out the literal text embedded right here. It's color-coded, right? Red and blue. It's totally giving us a massive hint about the duality we're about to explore. The word conflict is bathed in this fiery, aggressive red, while dawn shines in a crisp, metallic blue. And, this isn't just the stylish font choice, it's practically a thesis statement for the entire artwork. The title itself serves as a legend for the map we're looking at, immediately establishing the two opposing forces and their foundational color palettes before our eyes even trace down to the actual battlefield. Which brings us to Section 2, a visual divide, looking at the geography of war. You know the old saying, geography is destiny? Well, it's absolutely true in warfare. Cast your eyes down to the central river flowing between these rocky shores. Ask yourself, why are both armies stationed on high cliffs directly across from each other? Because this rushing water is the literal line in the sand. It's a natural choke point that prevents an immediate, chaotic melee, forcing both sides to just hold their ground and stare death in the face. The frothing whitecaps and the dark waters create this neutral zone, a brief visual pause between the two wildly chaotic halves of the image. It represents the final tense moments of peace before the inevitable clash. And this setup brilliantly illustrates the rule of contrast. On the left, we've got this completely barren, lava-filled wasteland, pitted against a thriving sunlit valley on the right. Just look at the left side for a second. Jagged, blackened rock, glowing magma, and skies choked with smoke and what honestly looks like falling meteors or fiery debris. It's an environment of total consumption and destruction. Safe to say, property values over there are definitely plummeting. But contrast that immediately with the right side. Majestic snow-capped peaks, lush green valleys, and an immense, pristine white castle illuminated by breaking sun rays. The environment itself is literally telling us who these factions are before we even inspect a single soldier. All right, Section 3, Factions of Fire and Light, Armies in Contrast. So who actually populates these radically different environments? This visual breakdown perfectly categorizes the troops for us, showing exactly how color theory and bestiary choices define the identity of each opposing faction. We've got a red and black palette versus blue, gold, and silver. We have a black serpent on the banners versus a golden lion. And up in the sky, demonic dragons are countered by armored pegasi. Historically, right, the serpent and the dragon represent primal, chaotic, or destructive forces, while the lion and the pegasus are these near-universal symbols of nobility, order, and celestial defense. Actually, look up at the sky for a second. Notice those jagged spires on the left? They're practically coughing up smoke and dragons, while on the right, angelic pegasus soar around, leaving these glowing blue trails in the clear sky. This aerial dynamic is just incredible. The dragons emerge from the darkness like bats from a cave, creating this really oppressive canopy over their army. The Pegasus, on the other hand, are bathed in sunlight, flying in tight formation, seemingly descending right from the heavens. It gives the right side a feeling of divine backing or aerial superiority and agility, while the left projects sheer, terrifying brute force from above. Now let's zoom in on the ground level. Look at the banners in the foreground on the left. We have to impartially ask, What does this coiled serpent sigil and this whole dark aesthetic actually tell us about their philosophy? Well, the deep reds and the heavy, spiked armor suggest a culture forged in harshness. The coiled serpent on a tattered red banner implies a faction that really values striking power, maybe a philosophy of survival of the fittest. Their armor is uniform, sure, but it's brutal. It's designed to intimidate just as much as it's designed to protect. Every single visual cue points to a highly disciplined, aggressive force ready to conquer. Conversely, flipping over to the right side reveals a remarkably uniform force just bathed in light, bearing the golden lion on their shields to project order and nobility. Their armor is polished, reflective, and seemingly heavier, perhaps prioritizing defense and steadfastness. Those pristine blue capes, they suggest wealth, order, and a society that deeply values ceremony and structure. And the golden lion stands tall, roaring, facing the enemy directly, a classic heraldic symbol meant to inspire courage and signify a kingdom built on proud, long-standing traditions ready to defend their homeland. Let's bring it all together in our final section, the untold story, hints in the details. These specific visual cues on the ground level are absolutely not just artistic flourishes. They communicate intense readiness, strict military order, and a truly imminent collision. We're seeing matching armor styles within the ranks on both sides, which tells us these aren't just ragtag militias. No way. These are highly funded professional standing armies. And that elevated cliffside positioning gives both sides a great vantage point, sure, but it also traps them. There is literally no retreat, only the river below. The artists place these armies right on the edge of the abyss. This is honestly my absolute favorite detail. See how the commanders act as mirrors of one another, anchoring the viewer's eye right at the precipice of war. Despite the massive differences in their armor, their environment, their literal beasts of war, these two leaders are striking the exact same pose. They're both standing on the highest outcropping, capes billowing, swords extended outward, signaling their troops. In this single frozen moment, they are equals. It shows that despite the light and the dark, the fire and the ice, the mechanics of war and leadership look exactly the same on both sides of the river. Which really just leaves us to ponder the final mystery of this explainer. What sparked this ultimate polarization, and what happens when this standoff finally breaks? We've seen how effectively an artist can communicate two entirely opposing worldviews, economies, and military strategies using just color, geography, and some very clever symbolic details. But visual storytelling of this caliber doesn't just give you the answers, it forces you to ask the questions. Are the forces of the Darkspire invading the Golden Castle, or is the castle encroaching on the volcanic lands? The visual analysis opens the door, but your imagination has to finish the battle. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and definitely keep an eye out for these incredible details the next time you encounter a masterpiece of world building.